This is Pat Boone, host of the Inner Strengths Foundry podcast. I believe we are all fearfully and wonderfully made, and I help husbands, fathers, and providers understand what that means for them so they are more valuable to their friends, family, and organizations. I accomplish this by working through organizations and individuals to build their inner strengths. I've held several positions in the public and private sectors and in leadership positions for the past 17 years. I've owned and operated my own business, and I am also a Christian. I love to learn and have focused my learning around science and psychology, the Bible, and gathering bits of wisdom from my almost quarter century of experience being a husband, father, and provider. I pull from all these areas during this podcast and in my life coaching practice. The Inner Strengths Foundry podcast serves two purposes. One, to help you build your inner strengths by providing knowledge, hope, and perspective. And two, to help me build my inner strengths so I can be even more effective to you. Today, I'll provide valuable insights, practical tips, and inspiration to help you develop your inner strengths and resilience in the face of challenges. In this first segment, I'm going to define and explore the concept of inner strength and why it's crucial for personal growth and resilience. According to VIA Institute on Character, the word character refers to those qualities that are distinctive to the individual. So distinct quality. What distinct qualities, though, and what purpose do they serve? Well, after 3 years of study involving 55 scientists, this question was answered. They discovered 24 distinct qualities called character strengths that exist to benefit individual and organizations. So from the VIA Institute, character strengths are positive traits, capacities humans have for thinking, feeling, and behaving in ways that benefit oneself and others. Specifically, they are the psychological ingredients for displaying virtues or human goodness. VIA views each person as having a capacity for expressing any of the 24 character strengths in the VIA classification. Some strengths are easier and more natural for the individual to express. For example, those are your signature strengths. Other strengths arise in a particular situation when they are needed, which are called phasic strengths, and other strengths are expressed to a lesser degree or lesser frequency, which is your lesser strengths. Now, there's a lot more to consider when it comes to character strengths, but that's enough to get us started. The one other important finding, though, is that character strengths can be worked on and improved over time. So similar to skills like communication and operating machinery or painting portraits or making widgets, we can work on and improve our character strengths with effort. One of the 24 character strengths is perseverance, defined as finishing what one starts or persisting in a course of action in spite of obstacles. Resilience, on the other hand, is the capacity or the ability to bounce back, adapt, or recover from adversity, stress, or difficult situations. Important to note here that resilience is not one of the 24 character strengths, but is an essential quality nonetheless. Think of it this way. As you execute a long-term task or project and encounter issues or roadblocks that prevent you from moving forward, perseverance enables you to get back on track at some time in the future. Resilience determines your effectiveness to execute after the issue has been resolved. So consider a car racing team. The car and driver lead the pack most of the way through the race, but near the end they blow the tire. The pit crew only has a donut tire to put on the car to finish the race. Perseverance says, put the tire on, I'll finish the race because finishing is important. Resilience says, our ability to recover from the tire blowout, which is the donut, will result in slower speeds and reduced maneuverability. So the donut in the example above is a result of the character strengths, beliefs, skills, and resources that the racing team had to deal with blowouts. So whether living life, running an organization, working in a career, being a parent, or managing relationships, character strengths play a part in our ability or a path to not only deliver on our promises, but to recover from setbacks as well. Another interesting character strength uncovered by the 3-year study is spirituality, which is defined as having coherent beliefs about the higher purpose and meaning of life that shape conduct and provide comfort. I think this is huge. and it aligns with my personal beliefs that God placed eternity in our hearts, from Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament. That said, it should come as no surprise that the application of spirituality as a character strength has profound impact on our lives. A lesson I believe God has recently revealed to me relates to what I believe about myself and Him. I was dealing with doubting mindsets, self-doubt relating to my coaching practice. I kept telling myself that I believed I could help, but I wasn't really acting like it. I wasn't communicating with confidence what I believed, which is where I believe God stepped in and asked, do you really believe you can help? And if so, get to it. He reminded me of a verse in the New Testament, James 1, 2-6. Consider it pure joy, my brothers, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith develops perseverance. Perseverance must finish its work so that you may be found mature and complete, not lacking anything. If any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to him. And this is the important part. But when he asks, he must believe and not doubt, because he who doubts is like the wave of the sea blown and tossed by the wind. So God taught me that my beliefs must result in clear action and steadfastness. Quit sitting on the fence. Quit doubting yourself. Quit doubting me, and let's get on with it. So that's just an example of my signature spirituality character strength to the rescue. In this next segment, we're going to discuss the relationship between inner strength and resilience. And I'm going to provide a couple of practical tips and strategy for developing resilience, such as mindfulness, stress management, and adaptability. I mentioned earlier that strengths are a factor in determining how resilient you are, and that your strengths provide a path to resilience. What I mean by this is, in terms of capabilities to bounce back, there are many ways to do it. There isn't one way to bounce back from a challenge or a roadblock, and our character strengths have a part to play. So, for example, my niece has a zest for life. She has an ability to just dig in, get to work, and stay positive when faced with a setback. Her response is driven by a positive attitude and a high emotional energy that she brings to the table, which inevitably attracts others to hop along for the ride. So one of her signature strengths, and I don't know for sure, but I can just imagine one of her signature strengths is zest. She brings that zest, that positive energy to any situation, and people join up and work gets done. Contrast that with my wife. She is not emotionally driven, but is wise and practical. Her solution to the same problem would likely involve time to consider options, and then working out a simple, elegant solution that she executes on her own to fix whatever the challenge might be. Her power comes from perspective, fairness, prudence, self-regulation. She'll win simply by waiting it out if need be. So in each example, they both adapted to the situation using their own inner strengths to fix the problem. Adaptability is so important in a fast-paced, changing world. As Billy Beane says in Moneyball, adapt or die. In fact, that's another great example of using inner strengths. Billy Beane exhibited bravery, creativity, teamwork, and love of learning, which are 4 character strengths. They worked together to transform a professional baseball organization in one season, which they used to adapt to an unfair market. Love that movie. Really enjoyed it. Highly recommend watching Moneyball if you want to see an example of the bravery, creativity, teamwork, and love of learning. We also hear a lot about mindfulness lately, which can be linked to spirituality. Mindfulness, simply put, is being present in the moment without judging it. Our emotions often get in the way of solving issues and getting back on track. We waste a lot of time with anger, bitterness, and sadness, often focusing on the person or the thing that caused those emotions. We play events or interactions over in our heads and wonder, what if? Mindfulness says, stop doing that. The event happened. You're in a pickle. Those are the facts. It suggests we look at a setback or a roadblock as if we came upon a car accident. Our focus shouldn't be on whose fault was the car accident and what happened. Our focus should be assess the scene, contact the authorities, save those involved from danger, and prevent additional damage or danger if possible. And I get it. Sometimes it's easier said than done, but it is possible with practice, that mindfulness of focusing on what needs to get done, not on the emotions of as a result of what has happened. Mindfulness is closely associated with stress management. Stress involves emotions and our body's reaction to circumstance. Mindfulness teaches us to allow our emotions to flow, be aware of them, but don't let them drive our response. There are other physiological responses in play with stress as well, and mindfulness asks of us to notice and not judge them. Mindfulness buys us time. It puts the control back in the hands of a more logical decision maker in our brain. So how does this all tie into resilience? Remember that resilience is defined as our ability to recover, and our capabilities depend on the resources we have on hand. Mindfulness, stress management, and adaptability give us time to strategize a proper response. It maximizes our ability to plan and act in a way that we recover more fully. You may ask, how does my coaching approach help my clients develop resilience? Well, I have a simple 4-step process that fully engages a client, whether an organization or an individual, in developing a resilient growth mindset. So first we have pattern recognition, which is understanding yourself, understanding your organization. A lot of work is done in step 1 because understanding who we are and how we behave will help us recognize that behavior and correct it when we move to our new path. Human behavior is hard to change. It takes a lot of effort, and it's easy to sink back into old behaviors. We learn about our personality profile, we learn about our values, our character strengths, profile, hope score, SWOT analysis. Like, this is an area where we really discover who we are as an individual or as an organization, and really understand that to its core. Step 2, we discover the destination. Where are we going? In the destination discovery phase, we flush out not only where we are going, but why. Those reasons for change provide fuel to maintain perseverance when times get tough. Step 3 is a readiness assessment. So now that we understand who we are, we understand where we're going, now what do we need to get there? What's the plan? That's the readiness assessment. The readiness assessment will identify the tools, the strengths, and other resources needed to maximize our resiliency and overall capacity to deliver on our destination. Finally, the 4th step is personal expedition, which is where we actually put the plan into action and course correct along the way. Everything gets put into action, and as we execute, we will ultimately run into challenges, roadblocks, setbacks. This is where we discuss those things. We understand what's happening. We can go back to our old ways and say, okay, this is how we used to deal with this situation. Here's how we need to deal with it now. We got these new strengths that we're working on. We keep ourselves on track. And whether it's, like I said, in an organization or an individual, this is where we actually, the rubber hits the road, so to speak. So we put all that work that we've done in the first 3 steps, we put that into action, and we course correct along the way. This next segment, we're going to address some common challenges and obstacles that people face in their journey to build inner strength. So there's 2 main areas where these challenges come from. There's external barriers and there's internal barriers. So externally, some examples of these is life happens. So we all have a life. They're all, you start a new project and things happen in your life. Kids get sick, something happens, somebody has an accident, or you lose your job. There's so many things that could happen to throw you off track. So understanding that these are all potentials that could happen and likely will happen, and again, going back to the work that you do in the first step, you need to recognize that they are what they are. They're going to happen. At the very most, they may slow us down, but we can't stop doing what we're doing. Like I said, we may slow our progress, but we don't want to stop that. So these things in life just need to be worked through. Difficult people and criticism. We're going to deal with that. Like I said, I've been in the workforce for 25 years or more now, and I've worked with a lot of great people, but I've worked with a lot of difficult people too, and I've received criticism, and some, you can take some of that with a grain of salt, and you can internalize it and let it stop you in your tracks, but you can't do that. And in the past, I have gone through that, and it does stop. But when I changed what I believed about myself and what I believed about people, what I believed about God, that's what really brought success in my life and in the projects that I took on. So yeah, you're going to deal with difficult people. You're going to get criticism and whatever it is you're doing. If the criticism you receive makes sense, yep, integrate that into your practice, into your new path. If it doesn't, ignore it and keep going. And then finally, an external barrier is energy drainers. So these are could be people, could be foods, could be habits. All these things they drain our energy. They take away the strength and the energy that we need to stay on track and to keep executing on the path that we're executing, the tasks and the schedule and the budget and everything that we have on the go. These energy drainers take away that energy that we need that will help us accomplish the things that we want to accomplish. So understanding those things for what they are, minimizing those things in our life if we can, and sometimes it's just making a conscious decision that I'm not going to let this hold me back. I'm finding as I get older that I do literally have less energy, and so I've got to find things that keep my energy up. This is one of those things. This podcast is one of those things. So I keep my energy up, and that gives me the energy I need to do the other things related to my business and to help people improve their inner strengths. So that's external barriers. That's some examples of external barriers. Next, we have internal barriers. So an example of these is thinking and acting habits. So these are things that we think on a daily basis. We think about ourselves. We think about our spouse. We think about our kids, our family members, our boss. These things that we think about can hold us back. They can be barriers to prevent us from moving forward in our plans. Our habits, our internal habits that we have, things that we do. Eating bad foods, eating chips at 9 o'clock at night before going to bed. Like, great example of a bad habit that you don't want to get into and that you should break to help you get more healthy so you have the strength and the energy to do the things that you need to do. The second, we have emotions and negativity. So we constantly tell ourselves that we're not good enough, or that this will never work for us, or we're terrible human beings. We all have those things, and each one of us in our different personality, we receive negative messages when we're kids that we carry with us into our adulthood. Those things need to be worked through, and this is where a coach can really help recognize and bring those things out so we can deal with them and move forward without having those things affect us to a point where we can't get the work done that needs to get done. Another big one that I've seen internally is resistance to change. And a lot of people get comfortable. I was one of those people. And it's like, well, it's going to take a lot of work. I really don't need to. I got a job, but so having that resistance to change, and it comes in different forms. Like, some people they like to have, once they form their habit, they don't want to change from that habit. It's literally, it affects them in the mind. I mean, so there's different ways in this manifests itself. But again, it just comes down to how important is what you want to do with your life compared to making a change in your life. So what's more important? Is it staying the same, or is it accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish and being a better human? A big one, especially I see in organizations, is ownership. Taking ownership of the project, of the initiative that you want to implement to make your organization better. But I mean, this happens with individuals as well. You, as a coach, you hear excuse after excuse. I didn't have time this week, or this came up or that came up, or it was so and so's fault, or hey, you didn't remind me, coach, the way you were supposed to remind me. I mean, that's all a bunch of hooey. If you really want to accomplish something, you gotta take ownership of it. Grab the bull by the horn, so to speak, and really wrestle that thing down to the ground and own what it is that you want to accomplish. And then finally, clarity of vision. So a lot of people, on week one, this is where I want to go, and then they think about it as like, I think I want to go this way, and the next week, and then the third week is, I think this is what I want to do. So getting real clear on the vision. And I would recommend really taking some time before you take too many steps towards really assembling the troops and and it's getting them down a path. Be very clear on what is it that you want to accomplish and where do you want to be in that time period, whether it's 6 months, a year, 5 years, 10 years, whatever that is. Get clear on that vision. And it's important that we're not changing directions every 5 years. So, and I will, a caveat to that is you do need to. There are times when change is necessary. New legislation may come in, which really throws a wrench into your plan. An event happens that changes the course of a whole culture. Those things we can't help, and yes, we need to adjust our vision potentially. But if you're changing every 5 minutes, that just throws everybody off, and it makes it impossible, near impossible for people to follow. So it's important to recognize that issues and setbacks to change will happen. I mean, two tools that I use on a regular basis come from my project management experience. First is issue management. So identification, categorization, and management of roadblocks that prevent you from completing a task. So this is more of a reactive response. A tool breaks, during a deck build. So what do I do with the tool? Do I throw it into the woods, which has happened, I'll admit, in my early 20s. You lose your cool, and we lived out of town, so I had to go drive a half an hour, so I lost probably 2 hours. So the tool ends up in the woods. A little older, I don't do that anymore. And then the second tool is risk management. So it's the identification, categorization, and response management of roadblocks that could potentially hold you back from completing a task. So this is a proactive response. So when I set up my printing business, we had a printing business, my wife and I, where we actually print. This is before digital photography. We had negatives. So when you took a picture, you got your negatives developed. We took those negatives and we printed them on paper. So we printed grad photos and so forth. And when I set up my printing business, before I went too far down the path, photo printing had dealt with chemical to develop the paper. And so I would have to dispose of those chemicals. As you produced photos, you had to throw those chemicals out a little bit at a time. So we had to make sure we got advice from the Department of Environment to make sure we disposed of those chemicals safely. And I wanted to make sure that I had that sign off before I went too far and got a loan for equipment and building and so forth. Another good example of this on a day-to-day basis is we were at the park the other day and my grandson had some toys and shoes and so forth in the park, and just kept throwing them all over the place. So he would go run and play. There was other kids around, so I would just go pick the toys up, set them down by me so, a kid wouldn't step on it or take it or whatever. So that's issue management and risk management, just kind of real life examples of issue management. So those are some things you can do from a project management background to help you really deal with things that might hold you back. So I mentioned coaching a few moments ago. And I think it's important to share what the benefit a coach brings to a situation, a relationship, accomplishing some things that you want to accomplish. So the first thing it brings is perspective. So you're passionate about your project. You're passionate about your organization and your life. A coach is passionate about you. So a coach can bring a new perspective you may not have considered because you're so focused on the problem that's holding you back from making your organization better, making you better, you may not see what's actually going on. So a coach their role is to be focused on you and to help you get to where you want to be. They'll bring in perspective that maybe you haven't considered to help you get out of a jam. So perspective is the first one. Identification of barriers. A coach's experience in delivering results across multiple disciplines will help to mitigate potential future threats to you achieving your goals. So there's exercises that we can do with you to help identify those existing barriers during execution that might be a blind spot for you. Finally, there's encouragement. Everybody needs a positive note, a conversation, a celebration at some point during the long, hard journey of making change. Coaches should have a radar up on their client's frame of mind and be able to step in with encouraging words, acts of kindness, a note of appreciation for the opportunity to work with a client to help them make the changes they desire. Anything like that can help boost the client and just give them that little spark of energy they need to keep moving forward on their goal. So those are the three things: perspective, identification of barriers, and encourage. 3 powerful things that a coach brings to make sure that their client accomplishes what they want to accomplish. This next segment, I'm just going to share 2 simple exercises that listeners can implement in their daily lives to develop inner strengths. So the first one involves somebody else, and it is active listening. So the character strengths that are related to active listening might be love, fairness, perspective, open-mindedness, curiosity, self-regulation. Those are all strengths that are involved with active listening. So that involves when you're having a conversation, first of all, pay full attention. Get rid of all distractions, especially your phone. Maintain eye contact, show interest with your body, face toward the speaker, nod, smile, show them that you're listening. So pay full attention. Next, empathize and understand. So avoid interrupting. And I will tell you, it is incredibly frustrating to be in the middle of sharing a thought and then being bombarded with thoughts or questions coming back at me. Very frustrating. So put yourself in your speaker's shoes. How might they feel as they're sharing? What perspective are they coming from? Why are they coming from that perspective? And then step 3, very easily, very simply, respond thoughtfully. Ask open-ended questions. Summarize and reflect back what you heard. Share your thoughts respectfully and calmly when appropriate. So that helps build that whole relationship. Anytime you interact with somebody, that active listening is so important. As I mentioned, love, fairness, perspective, open-mindedness, curiosity, self-regulation. These are all strengths that are involved in active listening. Second is a really cool idea. And to be honest, I'm going to take credit for this. It's a virtual art show. I don't view a lot of art, but I do appreciate art. So when you view art, and what I'm about to share with you right now, these strengths that are involved might be gratitude, hope, appreciation of beauty and excellence, perspective, creativity. These are all things that are sometimes hard to work on and hard to improve, but I think this exercise will help do that. So in a virtual art show, sit in a quiet place by yourself, turn off all notifications, communications on your computer or phone, open a browser, and go to useum.org. So useum.org. I mean, it's obviously be better to go to a live art gallery or museum, but go to useum.org, browse the images, and find a painting that most intrigues or impresses you. So study it for colors, texture, realism, abstractness. What draws you to it? Why? What emotions do you think the artist was trying to capture? What emotions does it elicit in you? How does the title fit in with your thought? Does the image speak to you personally? If so, how? Write these things down. And you'll find after doing this that it will enable you to kind of slow down. It will probably even help you with that active listening exercise. But it'll enable you to slow down and actually appreciate beauty and excellence. And that may translate into when you're talking with somebody, you can actually sit back and take that same approach when you're talking with somebody. They have something to offer. What is it? Do you have to have the right answer? Does their answer work? So these are the things that could really help you with connecting with others and helps you with empathy. So just to recap our key takeaways today, inner strengths don't all look the same. We all bring something different to the table, and our inner strengths can be improved with effort. Barriers to improving our inner strengths can come from external or internal sources, and there are practices we can adopt like active listening and a virtual art tour to help us improve our inner strength. That's the episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's always exciting to connect in some small way to listeners. Don't be shy. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Next week, we'll master business challenges by unleashing our inner strengths through project management tools and techniques. If you're interested in improving your organization effectiveness, or as an individual you want to be a better husband, father, or provider, the best place to reach me is on Facebook at Pat Boone-Life Coach. I encourage you to like my page, to interact with me there, leave comments, and if you want to have a conversation, you can message me there on that page. Secondly, you can find me on my website, coachpatboone.com. That's COACHPATBOONE.com. Click on the Contact Me button on the main page, the main image. Fill out the form, and I'll get an email with your message, and we'll go from there. So until next week, here's to forming new habits. I'm Pat Boone, and this is the Inner Strengths Foundry podcast.